Shock Monkey Radio is entertainment for adults, by adults, and the views and opinions expressed here do not reflect upon the sponsors or FXBG Public Radio. For additional information, please refer to the United States Bill of Rights. Stand warned. I got a text message the other day saying that they wanted $5,000 in gift cards, or else they'll send naked pictures of me to my family. And I said, just responded real simply, go ahead. No such pictures exist. And I haven't heard a response ever since, because I knew they were bluffing. Unless I've passed out a couple times, doing a show late and had too many beers, and you're like, madman, you shouldn't drive. And I'm like, yes, that's the responsible thing to do. I've crashed here a couple times. You never took any like weird pictures of me. Yeah, I'm sorry. I feel silly for even asking. Anyway, welcome to Shock Monkey Radio. I'm your host, the Madman, and I'm a liar. And at least I'm upfront about it, because I'm a liar in the sense that I use it to entertain. And you have to be a liar if you write fiction, and I write fiction. My books are available on Amazon.com. Search for the author, Scott L. Robbins, with 2 T's and 2 B's. I got the Bunny Years of Memoir, Exit 13 series, and Ravings of a Madman, which I guess is nonfiction. That's the one nonfiction book. I also have a Patreon. Go to patreon.com/shockmonkeyradio. Become a patron today. I would appreciate it. Or you could just send me money through Cash App. Use the hashtag shockmonkeyradio, all one word. Follow me on social media. You can see it over here on the screen. And check me out. Follow me. It's like I have different functions for each one. like the Instagram one, I just every now and then I'll post a picture. Instagram's kind of weird. The Facebook thing, sometimes I'll do like a video show or something like that. Depends on how drunk I get. And Twitter is like I just repost stuff about horses and how horses are evil. So mostly. Plus, I retweet funny tweets and memes and all that, like everyone else on Twitter. So you can follow me there. Or if you're interested in my books, you can also follow the links down in the description below. Alrighty. So, interesting. So I was pulling into a shopping center, like a grocery store parking lot. And as I approached this parking space, I could see there were four women standing around their vehicles with their phones out like this, and they're looking up and looking around. I don't know, they're talking a little bit, and I was like, oh, what in the world is going on here? Is it possible that 4 friends ran into each other in the store parking lot and just chit-chatting? So I'm like, this is weird. So I pulled in this parking spot, and I step out of the car, and this one lady approaches me, and she says, excuse me, do you happen to have any jumper cables? So in the split second it took for me to get my keys and go into the trunk and pull out the jumper cables that I had, this whole sexist tirade appeared in my brain. It's like, you got 4 women, 4 vehicles here, and not one set of jumper cables between the 4 of you. And so but luckily, I did have jumper cables, probably because of my Y chromosome. And so popped my hood, and it just so happened that the parking spot I pulled into was the lady who needed the jump, and it just so happened that the side her battery was on was the side that I think they were probably holding that parking space. And maybe. And so maybe when I was pulling in, they say, oh, look, it's a male. He probably has jumper cables. We'll let him park in that space. And it just so happened it turned out that way. But as soon as I pulled out the jumper cables and we popped our hoods and everything like that, like 3 of the other ladies left. So they're just there helping that one lady get a jump. Because what's more threatening? A single woman? One single woman in the parking lot playing, hey mister, do you have jumper cables? Or 4 ladies out there with their phones out and ready to film you or call 911 and asking for jumper cables. So I just think it's interesting that I may have had this sexist tirade in my mind, but you know what, I probably discounted the sexist tirades going on in their minds. But the good news is that nobody was hurt. Nobody's feelings were even hurt. Lady got a jump. She sat there in the parking lot the whole time I was inside. It came out, and she's still like letting her car run, I let an alternator do its thing. She said, thanks again, and bye. And so it was a very positive interaction altogether. All because I kept spitting out my lunch. All because I kept my chaotic thoughts to myself. Because I was in a hurry that day, and I was like, I really have time, and it's hot, but I help people out anyway. And, you should too. Because there was this one time where I needed a jump, and I was at a Wawa, and it was like 4 people I had to ask. And mostly it was like younger people, like early 20s people. And I was like, hey, I have some jumper cables. You got a second? Just let me get a jump off your car. And people would walk, I really don't have time. I got to get to work. And I was like, okay. And I don't know. I guess it kind of made me feel like I was, I don't know, dangerous looking, which I don't think so. How is that possible? How do you look at me and say, oh, that guy looks creepy and dangerous? I don't get that. I don't know. I never creep myself out, I suppose. Is it possible to creep yourself out? Sometimes I think so. Sometimes I give myself the creeps. Yeah. Okay. So, I mean, and that's why, like, when I find myself in a situation where somebody's asking me, do you have any jumper cables? I remember myself in that situation trying to get a jump so I can get on with my day. And so that's kind of the idea of pay it forward, or do unto others as you have done unto you. Anyway, I just thought it was an interesting thing that happened. I learned something from it, or maybe you can learn something from it too. All right, you want to get a little weird? Let's get a little weird. I find twins to be a fascinating concept. I guess I'm a little Dr. Mengele in that regard. Even in my book, The Bunny Years, it's about a superhero named Jackrabbit who comes from a family of twins, only his twin brother was stillborn. And so, and all the twins in his family are all psychics and so forth. And I even had this evil twin from another dimension who came to be a supervillain, fought Jackrabbit, but his name was Black Rabbit. Instead of a whip, he carried a bow and arrow and telekinetic kick or something like that. He was far more deadly. So, I mean, the idea of like the evil twin and stuff like that, that's all very kind of interesting to me. And it's not to say that, what I'm about to talk about is once evil or not evil. But I was thinking about, what if you had an identical twin and that twin turned out to be gay? All right. How would that make you feel? Now, I guarantee you this has happened at one point in the history of humanity, at least once, where these boys, they turn to be like twin brothers. They're grown up to be like 17, 18 years old. And you find out, oh, my twin brother is gay. And then you start having all these questions about whether it's the issue of nature or nurture. Looks like EK has something to say about, because you've had a brother.
I think I have an answer for this.
Oh, you do? You have an answer?
Okay, so when a gay man hits on me, if I have a gay twin brother, identical twin brother.
Yeah.
When a gay man hits on me, I'm going to be like, well, I've got a twin brother who's gay. I can set you up. I think my identical gay twin brother would hate me.
Would hate you?
Yeah, because I'd always be trying to set him up with people that were coming on to me.
Oh, because you're not shooting high enough, right? It's like you think, like, because you only got like the guys who are aggressive towards you. Right. The guys that you wouldn't like. Right. I get it. It's like you want the challenge. You want to shoot out of your league. Every guy wants that.
I feel like that would be the dynamic. If I had an identical gay twin brother.
Quit giving all these guys my number.
Right. That would be the thing.
Just because a gay guy comes up and talks to you doesn't mean they're attractive. There's plenty of ugly gay guys out there. Look at us. We're hot. I'm not saying that brothers wouldn't find a way to cope with this, but it still would kind of like gnaw at your mind, is like, is there an issue of self-attraction? And is it that it's like, we grew up together talking about, growing up, it was like, I had a boner for the first time. It's like, oh, me too, And then you'd have like all these thoughts. It's like you're sitting there, you're watching this musical and you're like, man, Guys and Dolls is pretty entertaining. And then you think, oh, maybe that's the nature part of me that is like my brother. And so, I mean, it's just kind of an interesting concept. It's like how it would make you feel, and how your life would like change. Like EK was talking about, is like, okay, like I tell you what, I'm not into it, but my identical twin brother really is. So
if you like how I look.
Yeah. There's a gay version of me.
Imagine me, but with glitter.
Me plus glitter. Is that the title of the show? Me plus glitter. I think so. Me plus glitter. All right. So I think about this like a lot for some weird reason. It's like horses, you know. I think about like twins and so forth. It's like, because I was thinking like right after I was thinking this concept, I was thinking about how like dogs and cats. Are there ever identical twins of dogs and cats? I would think there would be, but how the hell would we know? You know, just because they have the same fur doesn't mean they're exactly identical. You know, just because you and your brother have the same hair color doesn't mean you look alike. You know what I mean? So how would we know? How do you know if those like 2 of the 6 puppies in this litter are identical twins, even if 4 of them have the same coat? You know what I mean? Short of doing a DNA test on dogs and cats, but I'm going to tell you straight up, that is an absolute waste of money. I don't need to know that badly. Why would you do DNA tests on cats and dogs just to find out if they're identical twins or not? You know, you got to have a ton of bad ideas before you come across a good one, trust me. Do you like distract? I read this thing. It's like there's like 50% of people have no internal dialogue. It's like, what do you do in like a waiting room and no magazines? That. Yeah, I don't believe that that's 50%? True. Something like that. I don't know. I don't think that could possibly be true. Even if you're dumb, you're thinking about something. You know?
I talk to myself all the time.
What'd you say?
I talk to myself all the time.
Yeah, I know. Usually you think that I'm there too, but you know what comedy is, right? Tragedy plus time. Anyway, we're just having fun today, all right? Me plus glitter. All right, so I'm going to talk about a few movies that I saw this past week. And, you know, before I get into this, I'm going to do a little preamble here. I have disagreements with a lot of my friends, like I say. And sometimes you can get into like a heated discussion with somebody and you need to bring the conversation out of that kind of territory and into something more relatable that everybody can relate to. And that is movies, culture, you know, shows and stuff like that. You start getting into a heated argument, and it's like friggin' Donald Trump and blah, 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 blah. With friends, just, hey, man, remember in Game of Thrones when, you know, you're like, yeah, because we both watched Game of Thrones and we both were entertained by it. And so that's the point. Is like, if the conversation starts getting too heated, bring it back to something that's very benign and relatable to everybody. And that is culture, it's cinema, it's movies like this one, Year One, the 2009 movie, Year One. Hopefully you've seen this because it is hilarious. And it's funny how Harold Ramis, God bless his soul, God rest his soul, snuck in a church a church comedy on us, because it turns out it's really just like a comedy about the Old Testament, about the book of Genesis, basically. And it's kind of brilliant. So just to give a synopsis here, we got over here. We got Jack Black and Michael Cera. Michael Cera, they play Zed and O, I believe. And they start out in this tribe, and there's basically 2 jobs. That's hunter, which Zed is, and gatherer, which is what O is. All right, and they go through this thing with a tree of knowledge, and they're all obsessed with lying. I want to lie with this girl. I want to lie with that girl. You know, nobody really likes Zed, but he eats the golden knowledge of fruit and evil fruit or whatever, and claims to have gotten smarter and said, let's just keep going over those mountains. And everyone's like, no, you go over those mountains, you're never going to come back because you just fall off the planet, fall off the earth. Turns out he was right. And so he and Michael Cera actually believe that he actually got smarter just because he was right about that. And then it goes from this tribe situation where these guys are kind of like the outcasts of their tribe, and they literally get cast out of their tribe. And so they end up walking, and they come across, I got to consult my notes here. They come across, what's his name? Tobias Funke? What's his name? David Cross. You come across David Cross, who plays Cain. and he kills his brother Abel, which is America's treasure, Paul Rudd. And it's funny because he's like they have this conversation. Oh, Cain's just mad because God looked down on my sacrifice with favor. It's the delivery of these scenes, and there's a lot of big names in this movie, but a lot of them are cameos because it mostly centers around these two guys here, and it's pretty good comedy. And so you know what happens to Cain is Cain slays his brother Abel. It eventually like gets these guys to like back him up as he goes home, and his dad's asking, "Where's your brother?" Adam, played by Harold Ramis. "Where's your brother?" Keeps making excuses. Anyway, and so it does that for a bit, and then what do they go to next? They go to the Isaac sacrifice when they're leaping through time like crazy. It's amazing. And so Abraham's about to sacrifice Isaac, if you remember from the Bible, and Zed and O stumble upon that, and they stop him from killing Isaac, and go back and they hang out with Abraham and Isaac, and Abraham is like really super religious and stuff like that, and that makes sense. And then he starts like talking weirdly about circumcision. It's like we're all gonna circumcise. We're all gonna get circumcised together. Which is hilarious because it is kind of what happened. They're like, I'm not. Yeah, we're like, I don't want to do this. We're out. So they leave, and then there's another section of the film where they go to Sodom, and because everyone's talking about how great it is, a lot of booze, a lot of drinking, a lot of sex. But they get there and it's really super weird. You know, it's like Michael Cera painted up as a gold boy, you know, plaything for these rich old creepy dudes. You know, it really is a great movie. It's like I said, you know, Harold Ramis slipped in a Bible comedy on us, and you know, I think it's actually a really good movie. I highly recommend it. Year one, 2009 movie, 10 of 13 stars. When do you get a break? We can go do something. Oh, I never. I'm a slave. There's a scene where he's like, oh, when you get off, I think Jack Black says it to the girl he's chasing in the movie. He's like, oh, when you get a break, we can go do something. She's like, oh, never. I'm a slave. Anyway, yeah, there's going to be, there's two comedies I'm reviewing and one tragedy. So let's go into the tragedy movie, which is a fantastic movie. It's called Flight, a 2012 movie. And as you can see right there at the bottom, Denzel Washington's performance is a triumph. And that is true. And I'll say this about people who are like complaining that, you know, you got to see it to be it, or, you know, the like diversity in Hollywood and stuff like that. It's like Denzel Washington came from a time back when there was a time when there was a meritocracy when it comes to being a good actor. And Denzel Washington has always been a good actor. All right. And, you know, just putting somebody in a role because that they are just because of their skin color and doesn't really take into account the skill of their acting ability. You know, I think you're making a big mistake. You know, I mean, some of my favoriteest movies Denzel Washington is in. Training Day. Holy cow. What a meaty character, you know, that he got to play in that, playing that Alonzo guy. Yeah. What a meaty, like what's a morally ambiguous character. And you need a fantastic actor to do a role like that. And this is that kind of role. Because Flight is about this pilot who is drinking all night, doing cocaine, and going and flying planes all over the country, staying in hotels, banging flight attendants, you know, living that kind of life. Number one, that should make you concerned about the nature of the flying industry. So, but a situation happens when he was on a flight where they has a problem, malfunction or something like that. You end up like, you had to invert the bird and land her in an open field. I'm going to need to see some identification. Well, you don't believe a pilot? I don't believe you're a doctor. That's a very serious accusation. I'm crossing over into Always Sunny in Philadelphia. because that's that's what it's based upon. It's like, and it was a crazy maneuver to do, first of all, and you kind of have to be a little loose. You got to have a couple drinks in you to try something like that. But he ended up saving a bunch of people. Few people died, and so because of that, an investigation gets started. And when he was in the hospital, they pulled his blood, and so he knows like right away. It's like they're going to find the cocaine, they're going to find alcohol in my system. This is going to be a big mess. And eventually he's approached by his bosses and, the NTSB, and he's very forthcoming with his bosses about, I've been drinking, I've been snorting coke, and so there's like, we got to clean you up before this investigation for the NTSB. We're cleaning you up. And he tries. And this, one of those things that happens in movies that never made any sense to me, because whenever there's a character who gives up drinking in a movie, there's always a scene where they're going through their house and they're picking up all the bottles and throwing it in a trash can or trash bag or something like that and taking it outside. And in this movie, and like in so many other movies, some character gives up drinking, like Denzel Washington's character in this movie, and they go around, they're pulling you're pulling the bottles out of the couch cushions, you're pulling bottles out of everywhere, out of drawers, but it's all different types of liquor. And you know what? That is just so not true. It would be like one kind of liquor. It would be, or like one type of beer cans, because he's also like throwing away like beer cans and stuff like that, all different brands. And so I wonder if the issue is that you cannot show the fact that a guy like this probably drank nothing but Maker's Mark and Maker's Mark only, because they didn't want like all these Maker Mark bottles to be in this scene where somebody quits drinking. You understand? Do you think brands was the problem? Yeah. Do you think brands don't want anyone to associate with that, so I wonder if that's kind of the issue, because that's not the case. It's like I knew one guy who said he quit smoking because he stopped buying Camels. It's like I started buying Marlboros and I just smoked less and less because they taste horrible. Now I don't know if that's true, but it's a hilarious joke. And if but that's the point. Is like, people who are like addicts, they have a brand, But Denzel's performance in this always comes down to the very, the third act. And I always think a movie that has a third act where a character reaches a moral breaking point, and then makes the right decision after making a series of wrong decisions. I always find that to be a very compelling way to tell a story, because it shows a shift in a person's moral character. And I think that's a good thing. Right before this, investigation, this board, he's staying in this hotel. He'd been dry for all this time. And he got into this other hotel room that had a bar, and he got drunk. They come in to get him for the investigation. And he's trashed, unable to move. So he tells him to call his friend, his coke dealer, who brings him over some coke, gets him back in the game, as they say. And he goes to this thing, and during the questioning, they show the flight attendants that died, and one of which is who was one of the flight attendants he was banging. And it's kind of like it was kind of like shifting the blame from him to them in regards for the investigation. And he felt like he couldn't betray his friend's memory just to save his own ass. And I think that's kind of an interesting, moral quandary that sometimes you may find yourself in if you're the kind of person who keeps telling drunken lies over and over again just to cover up the flaws of your character. And at some point, you don't want the burden of your sins to fall on anyone else. And it's kind of, like I said, it's just like Training Day. It's such a very morally ambiguous character, but at the third act, you get this moral turn where the guy does the right thing no matter what it costs him. And I always like a movie that does something like that. It says Flight 2012, 10 of 13 stars. A little long. And that whole side thing with the addict lady, I don't know. I don't think that was useful. Anyway, let's go to this next one. City Island, 2009 movie. Speaking of lies, this movie is kind of like that, except it's the omission of truth is what it is. And it's a comedy, but it's more of a drama. I would say it's a dramedy. And for that reason, that's why when I came in here, I said EK would love this movie, and I know he would, because it takes place on City Island. City Island is a real place, near or in the Bronx, or counted as in the Bronx. Anyway, and so it has a very distinct New York flavor to it, which I think everyone in America loves. I think everyone in America loves the New York attitude and the way they talk and everything. I think so. That's very delightful throughout the film, and there's tons of hilarity that happens. But it's also this series of not giving the truth to your loved ones, and how disastrous that kind of thing could be by not being forthcoming with the truth with your friends and family. First of all, let me say, speaking of fantastic actors, Andy Garcia is a fantastic actor, and this is like he gets to showcase his skills, because he plays, his character is a corrections officer in City Island, all right, and he enrolls in this acting class, all right, but he doesn't want to tell his wife, who is Juliana Margulies, that he's taking acting classes, so he tells her he's playing poker instead. All right. So this is his daughter, who's his daughter in real life, by the way, Andy Garcia's real daughter, and whew, she's smoking. And she is quote unquote in college, but she's actually a stripper because she got kicked out of college and lost her scholarship due to having pot in her room, and so she didn't want to tell her parents about it. And, yeah. Let's see. Emily Mortimer, this cute lady right here, she plays another student in Andy Garcia's acting class, who talks him into going to an audition for a mafioso in a movie. And when he goes and he nails the role, he gets it, he gets the role. And now he's going to be in a Scorsese movie. And so he's all excited. He goes to his friend who talked him into going to the audition and says, "Why don't you be my manager? I mean, I wouldn't have done it if you hadn't told me to go out for this role." And she's like, "Okay." So he takes her home to meet his wife and tell her the good news and what's happening and everything. However, as all this is going on, you got this, I guess he's a handsome guy right here. This handsome guy right here, he is Andy Garcia's character's estranged son from a different girlfriend from years ago, and who he ended up in his custody in his job at the City Island corrections. So he ends up taking this guy home because he feels like, I want to get to know my son I've never met and so forth. And but he's like, he's under the pretense of like, I want you to help me build this bathroom in a boathouse. It's like, okay, so he's got this good-looking 20-something-year-old guy with Andy Garcia's jeans in this movie, with his shirt off, and Juliana Margulies, all right, and his daughter are there, who don't know that that's his son, all right, because Andy Garcia was not telling the truth, was not being forthcoming about why he brought this felon into their house. He was arrested for stealing a car. All right, do you understand how very crazy this can get very soon? Do you understand where all this is pointing? All right. So Juliana Margulies gets all hot and starts like making passes at this guy, and he's like going for it because he doesn't know why he's there either. But he stops her before they go too far, and he's like, "No, this isn't right. This isn't right. He's a corrections officer. He's helping me out." And it's like, it's wrong. And so, but she's mad at Andy Garcia because Andy Garcia shows up with Emily Mortimer. It's like, "We got good news. I'm an actor." But before he can even get there, she goes off on him, thinking that he brought this lady home that he had been having an affair with because he'd been playing poker all this time. "You're lying about poker. You're not actually at an acting class. You're actually cheating on me." Because that's what happened in her head. And that's why she felt motivated to get with this guy. You see what I'm saying? But this guy, he gets freaked out over like this. Wow, this is so complex. Juliana Margulies making a pass at him that he steals her car and goes to the strip club where his daughter is. He sees her in there. They have an argument out in the parking lot. He handcuffs himself to her, drives her back to the house in her stripper gear to confront all of them. So this is all happening at the same time. Andy Garcia and Emily Mortimer are showing up with the good news, and Juliana Margulies is yelling at him, thinking he's cheating on her. So she's dropping this bombshell that she had did stuff with this guy, and he's like, "That's my son." You know, he's puking. It's going crazy. You know, and then he arrives there with their daughter in stripper gear, handcuffed to her. You know what I'm saying? It all intersects in this very beautiful third act. It was really good because it's hilarious. It's it's terrifying and like, oh, and holy cow, could this have gone seriously wrong? You know, if you don't know, what's his name? Zach, what's his, Ezra Miller? Yeah, that's Ezra Miller. He's kind of like the impartial observer of this entire thing. He's just a weird, obnoxious teenage kid that's into fat chicks, which is kind of like this funny like subplot, you know, where he's like chasing these fat ladies around. It's a really hilarious movie, but it's also real touching too because you know the importance of family, the importance of telling the truth to your family, because you would think that maybe like. You have these moments where Andy Garcia and Emily Mortimer have these interactions. You're thinking maybe there's something going to go on there, but nothing does, you know? And then you have Juliana Margulies coming on to the Sun, and he's like, nah, this feels wrong. This feels wrong. And she says like he was a perfect gentleman. And yes, he was a gentleman in that regard. And so, and then the daughter comes clean. They're like, why are you dressed like that? And she comes clean. It's like, I got kicked I lost my scholarship because they found a little pot in my room. You know, took out my scholarship, lost my money. I've been dancing to make ends meet since then. I saved up enough so I can go next semester. My favorite line in the movie is when Juliana Margulies turns to her. She's like, they kicked you out of school and took away your scholarship for a little bit of pot? She's like, yeah. She's like, oh, sweetie. Hugs her around. Oh, everybody smokes pot. And the movie is filled with great little lines and stuff like that. It's like, it's that New York attitude, like I said. And it's like, sometimes people try to put it in some movies and it doesn't work. But in this movie, it has a very New York attitude. It's a very likable attitude, but it's also a good lesson about why you should be forthcoming with the truth to your loved ones. You might end up banging your nephew or something. Yeah, it could have gone so much worse. Anyway, City Island, 2009, 11 of 13 stars. Highly recommended. All right, let's get into the news worth knowing. Moving right along. Whew. Summertime. And living is easy. No, it is not. All right. Sheriff issues chilling warning to parents after missing teen girl rescued in routine traffic stop. You know, most felons are caught in routine traffic stops. Anyway, North Carolina authorities were conducting a routine traffic stop on July 4th when they noticed something unusual in the vehicle they pulled over, a 16-year-old female passenger who had been reported missing by Florida police just hours earlier. Just after midnight, Nash County deputies pulled over a white Audi with Florida plates on I-95 after a traffic violation, the sheriff's office said in a press release. Deputies asked the driver, Alejandro Hernandez Vasquez, 40 years old, who some routine questions, quote-unquote routine questions, and, quote, developed reasonable suspicion to believe the criminal activity was afoot, the press release states. The cop heard screaming. You know, come on, that's what it sounds like. Anyway, so after getting consent from Vasquez to search his vehicle, deputies noticed that his 16-year-old female passenger had been reported missing by the Coral Springs Police Department just 5 hours prior to the traffic stop. All right, let's stop there for a second. He gave consent to search the vehicle. He's like, what's illegal in here? And he's thinking about stuff. What stuff is illegal in here? There's a person there. That's not stuff, so I'm not even going to consider that. See how it happens. We got you. The people are in the vehicle. Ha ha. We get to search them too. It seems like there's a game they're playing. Anyway, authorities were able to rescue the teenager, who reportedly met Vasquez online and transported her to Wake County Juvenile Detention Center, where her family picked her up. Quote, monitor your kids' social media, because a lot of this stuff starts with people preying on your children. Nash County Sheriff Keith Stone told WRAL. If you're not monitoring what your child is doing on the internet, there's a possibility that people are taking advantage of them. This older guy here was taking advantage of a 16-year-old. He was carrying her up north and I'm sure it was not in the best interest for that girl or society. That's a put it mildly. All right, I guess we can finish that particular story. As you may or may not have heard, this movie, what's it called? Sound of Freedom, just came out and it's been making some waves in the box office and cultural world. And it's about like child trafficking and stuff like that. And I do want to see it because all the people I like are recommending it. So I was like, okay, Ben Shapiro, I'll get around to watching all your stuff sooner or later. All this stuff sooner or later. Plus, I like Jim Caviezel. I think he's an excellent actor. Have you seen The Count of Monte Cristo with him in it? That was really good. Speaking of good actors. So, and this it touches on the issue of like child trafficking and stuff like that, and how very real it is, and how simple it is for it to be done, especially with this day and age when it comes to all these cell phones. You know, EK's in here. He was just how many cell phones are in this building?
Oh, I could
16.
I would need time to count.
Yeah, he would need time to count. All right, lots of them. There's lots and lots of them, and so I think, I hate to get like this extreme with it, but I think you should not be allowed to have a smartphone until you're like 18. I think that, I mean, call me overly conservative, but I mean, it is, you know, the way that children are trafficked in this country is like, that's the number way for them to get their hands on them. You know what I mean? Even if it's like, meet me in the parking lot for free candy, you know? It's not that much different from the 80s, except the reach is further. And so, absolutely, I think we should start having some conversations about what kind of access to the internet these kids have, and or how much internet access how much access the internet should have to your children. This, I guess, should be the way better way to put it. All right, let's talk about aliens for a bit. Go on this next story. Dang, every time I move my laptop, the right click stopped working. All right. Congressman has grim take after access to UFO footage. Quote, "We can't handle it." You don't say! A Tennessee law... Oh, he's been talking to Matt Walsh. Tennessee lawmaker issued a dire warning after claiming to have seen classified UFO footage that hasn't been released to the public. A Representative Tim Burchett from Tennessee speculated extraterrestrial life forms could have technology that humanity can't handle during an appearance on the Event Horizon podcast. Well, it was a podcast. Quote, if they're out there, they're out there, and they have this kind of technology, then they could turn this into a charcoal briquette, Burchett said. And if they could travel light years or at speeds that we've seen, or at the speeds we've seen, and physics we know as we know it, fly underwater, don't show heat trail, things like that, then we are vastly out of our league. Burchett is a sitting member of the House Oversight Committee and has held hearings about potential threats and unidentified anomalous phenomenon. Why do they want to change it from UFO? I never got that. UAP. Huh? UAP, yeah, it's UFO is better. A government derived term for UFOs. Quote, "We can't handle it," Burchett said during his podcast appearance about potential alien tech. "We couldn't fight them off if we wanted to. That's why I don't think they're a threat to us, so they already would have been." So the good news is that we're not worth the aliens' trouble. His startling comments came after whistleblower David Grush, a decorated Air Force veteran who is considered a man by many to be credible, came forward with claims the government has been running a secret UFO retrieval program. The House Oversight Committee is preparing a hearing to discuss Grush's unverified claims. Burchett and fellow Republican Anna Paulina Luna of Florida will lead the committee's investigation. If there's nothing we can do about it, why waste government time and money on this? If you really believe what you say, why are you wasting Tennessee people's tax dollars with an investigation on this? I don't understand the logic. I'm done with that story. Wow, I just ended my interest in that story. Now I regret even putting it in here. Well, I couldn't have had that thought earlier. Would have given you a longer story. Anyways, because let's talk about Joe Rogan and Ice Cube. So they discussed the Bud Light fiasco and Dylan Mulvaney. Podcaster and rapper Ice Cube discussed the cause behind Bud Light's disastrous alliance with Dylan Mulvaney, TikTok influencer who identifies as transgender. Ice Cube argued that Americans should be asking who within Bud Light's corporate structure was responsible for enlisting Dylan Mulvaney to promote the beer. Quote, who controls Bud Light? That's the question. Why would they make a dumb decision like that? Are they trying to ruin Bud Light? And why would they want to ruin Bud Light? Are they trying to take down some of our most iconic American brands? Rapper O'Shea Ice Cube Jackson. His name is O'Shea? That is so much cooler than Ice Cube. Anyway, whatever. It's your nickname, bro. Yeah, that's what Ice Cube said on the Joe Rogan Experience. Rogan said that Americans were tired of woke politics taking over their lives. And you know Joe Rogan, he cusses too much. People are sick of this shit. Yeah, people are sick of this shit. They're sick of social things like that. They're controversial, getting stuffed in your face where you have to accept. People are like, I don't want to accept it. And Ice Cube said, politics really shouldn't be in someone's beer mug. That's correct. That is correct, sir. But Ice Cube, I guess you could put ice cubes in beer. Rogan also claimed that Bud Light's failure was a misguided business decision that was never intended to anger Bud Light fans. The real problem, he said, was that Bud Light corporate is out of touch with its customer base. That's a very, Okay, this Rogan's quoting, so there's a lot of swearing. They don't know any real people, man. They don't know regular people. They have no idea that if you have a brand like Bud Light, which is known as blue-collar drinking, people like that like to fucking watch football and drink Bud Light. Then all of a sudden you have this mentally ill person who's just an attention whore. Rogan said, referring to Mulvaney. That's why people like Rogan. He's direct. Anyway, singer Kid Rock used several Bud Light... F Bud Light, F Anheuser-Busch, another person with a potty mouth. This is what Rogan said. Once Kid Rock shoots your cans, you got real problems. Rogan said. Ice Cube pointed out that Bud Light's decision has hurt its regular employees the most. That is the concern. Yes, sir. Who is getting hurt in this whole thing? Is it the Bud Light brass? No. Will their bonuses be affected? Would their checks or salaries be affected? No. But this is what he said. But a bunch of middle-class guys are paying the price because you got distribution centers. Guys that deliver the beer nobody wants. Now they're out of a job. And now they're really attacking the middle class and making a brand that's so big to take a hit like that, Ice Cube added. I couldn't have phrased it any better myself, sir. Absolutely. And that's the responsibility of companies like Anheuser-Busch. That's why you don't do things like that, because who is it going to hurt the most? Average people. All those people with golden parachutes, they're going to be fine. The distributors, the bottlers, facing layoffs because you made a bad marketing decision, and now all of a sudden the demand has... Anyway, let's kind of stay on the same subject and talk about what Dylan Mulvaney...
America realized there were 87,000 other beers.
Yeah, then everyone realizes, like, oh shit, let's try... like Coors Banquet. Let's give that one a try. And it's like, you just now trying Coors Banquet? Gavin McGinnis? Thought you liked beer. Anyway. Dylan Mulvaney takes a trip to Peru to feel safe after the Bud Light disaster. I feel very safe outside of the USA. Oh, really? Go to Tehran. Please, go to Tehran. I wonder if they'd even let you off the plane. Or onto a plane flying to Tehran. You don't think they'd even let you on a plane flying to Tehran? Wow. Whew.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
Once you get to the international security, they'd be like, this is not safe for you. You're going to cause an incident.
It's not safe for you. It's going to cause an incident. Anyway, but he went to Peru. Lucky bastard. I'd almost consider dressing up like a woman and pretending like I'm a woman if it got me the funds so I could take a trip to Machu Picchu. Okay? I would love to see that. There's plenty of places. I'd like to go to Angkor Wat. I love to see the Mayan pyramids because I love seeing those videos of like tourists going up and getting their asses beat. Like, why are you walking up them, dumbass? Anyway. So Dylan Mulvaney takes a trip to Peru. All right. Dylan Mulvaney, who identifies as transgender and set off social media firestorm in April over Bud Light, posted multiple videos from Peru this week and claimed he no longer feels safe in the U.S. You are safest in the U.S., dude. Anyway. Okay, surprise, Mulvaney said in a recent TikTok video, I'm in Peru. I'm at Machu Picchu. Isn't this beautiful? Yes, it is. I've seen lots of llamas. Yeah, there's just weird how many there are there. Anyway. People here are so kind. I feel very safe here. It's a little sad that I had to leave my country to feel safe, but that will get better eventually, Mulvaney told fans. You understand it's like the reason you don't feel safe is because of the internet, but you're still using the internet in Peru. You can't escape your country if you're still using the internet. Do you understand what I'm saying? You cannot escape the culture of your country if you're still using the internet. Anyway, he doesn't even know if he's a boy or girl, so I would expect him to know anything more complicated. Anyway, the influencer has over 10 million followers on TikTok alone. Why? Who are these people? He explained that trip to Machu Picchu, a UNESCO World Heritage Site, is a personal and spiritual journey. I came here to feel something, and I definitely have. What are you? So you're not a sociopath anymore? I've done shaman ceremonies that were like 10 years worth of therapy? What? I've done shaman ceremonies that were like 10 years worth of therapy. It was wild, he explained. Bud Light has lost its status as America's top-selling beer, dropping to the 14th most popular beer in the country. Mulvaney has bashed Bud Light for not providing more support for after a controversial video, which celebrated the milestone of 365 days of girlhood, first started picking up attention online. The influencer slammed the resulting boycott, saying that what transpired from that video was more bullying and more transphobia than I ever could have imagined. I was scared, and I was scared of more backlash. I felt personally guilty for what transpired, so I patiently waited for things to get better, Mulvaney added. But surprised they didn't, and I was waiting for a brand to reach out to me, but they never did. I want to hold on, stop there. I personally felt guilty for what transpired. I don't think that's your fault, dude. I think that's Bud Light's mistake by thinking that America was ready for you. All right? No matter what you think about the transgender issue, I don't think you being you was going to happen, right? That was going to happen no matter what. So, Bud Light trying to piggyback upon this as like a trend is not necessarily your fault. All right. I'm trying to be objective here about it. All right.
Is there some way we can blame Wyoming for this?
Yes. Well, blame Wyoming and horses. Wyoming and horses. Every horse in Wyoming. I think that's where the masterminds are. I think the mastermind horses live in Wyoming. Anyway, to continue this article, for a company, this is all in quotes, to hire a trans person and then not publicly stand by them is worse, in my opinion, than not hiring a trans person at all, because it gives customers permission to be as transphobic and hateful as they want. Now I feel bad for defending you. Mulvaney also claimed that the backlash against the transgender video for Bud Light has made it difficult to be out in public. I think it's always been difficult for you to go out in public. Quote, and for months now, I've been scared to leave my house. I've been ridiculed in public, and I've been followed, and I felt a loneliness that I wouldn't wish on anyone. And I'm not telling you this because I want your pity. I'm telling you this because this is my experience from a very privileged perspective. Know that it is much, much worse for other trans people. And Anheuser-Busch did not respond for comment, blah, blah, blah. All right. Look, if people are ridiculing you in public, it's because you look ridiculous. All right? So there's that. The loneliness that you feel is because you are portraying yourself as something that you are not. And nobody likes anybody who's fake for a partner, no matter what their sexual preference.
Do you think the inherent loneliness that goes along with being in the trans community could possibly be faulted by the fact that the trans community is insanely tiny compared to the rest of the population? Maybe you feel lonely because there's just not that many of you.
Well, I think that's kind of the how people get into that position. I think that when people like us, we were growing up, if everyone feels isolated at one time, especially at that, when puberty starts hitting, everyone feels isolated and different from everyone else. But eventually, over the years, you find out more about yourself. You find out more about who you like and who you like to hang around with, and that takes time and learning. It doesn't necessarily mean it's like, oh, I feel weird, that must be I'm in the wrong body. But I mean, kids like Dylan Mulvaney growing up, instead of like thinking they need to become a woman, they would just be goth kids for a while. They'd listen to emo music all the time, and they have their hair over their eyes and giving one-word answers. That's how we used to do it until eventually, it's like, I want to get a real job, and you get a haircut, you stop painting your nails, and you go get a real job, But now kids are getting face tattoos and wondering why they can't. Anyway, it is a very small community, these transgender people, and that's the point. That's why this whole backlash with Bud Light exists, is because it's like I actually think it's like if Bud Light said, it's like only D&D gamers like Bud Light, and so every commercial is a bunch of guys playing D&D drinking Bud Light. Granted, I think it would be an excellent marketing campaign.
But then a bunch of jocks would be like, I'm not drinking nerd beer.
Yeah, I'm not drinking nerd beer. That's what I mean. Is like when you do a commercial for any kind of product, it should be generic, and not in any way, very benign. It should be have a Coke and a smile and shut the fuck up. You know what I mean? It's I'd like to teach the world to sing. See, I mean, it's it's really quite simple. But if you hook up to the wrong thing, it's like didn't like Megan Thee Stallion and whatever do a special for McDonald's? I'm like, because I think that month they had like some special. It was like just lost respect for McDonald's. It's like if 1978 they had this Queen promotion at McDonald's. Get the matching Queen glasses at McDonald's, because that's what they would have done in 1978. You get these really nice glasses, etched glasses or something like that from McDonald's, and one would have Freddie Mercury on it, one would have Brian May, one would have John Deacon, and one, Roger Taylor, and everyone would be like, trying to get the Freddie ones. But even then, there'd be people like disco heads. They're like, I'm not getting that. Or what the punk guys are like, I'm not going to McDonald's. Those rockers. You anytime you like, you shave away your audience or try to alienate your audience, bad things can happen. Holy cow, we're running out of time. All right, let's talk about this lady who does recipes she finds on tombstones. All right. A woman has made 23 recipes found on gravestones all throughout the country, and has even begun bringing each of her culinary creations of the tombstones to the deceased people who featured them.
What?
Yeah, Rosie Grant, 33, stumbled upon a Spritz cookie recipe carved into a headstone while she was earning her master's degree at the University of Maryland. In August 2021, Grant found an open book design on top of a tombstone with a full cookie recipe engraved there. That gravestone is located at Greenwood Cemetery in Brooklyn, New York. Grant, today a librarian and communications manager, went home and baked cookies from that recipe and even brought them back to the grave to eat as a... I gotta finish the sentence. Brought them back to the grave to eat as kind of a munch and mourn ritual.
Wow.
Brittany Casco. As soon as I read that sentence, I knew it was a woman who wrote this. I saw a grave Spritz cookies, and I thought, I'm curious to see how this cookie tastes. She told the news service SWNS. From there, the Los Angeles resident decided to see if the engraving of recipes on tombstone was a common practice. Turns out it's more prevalent than most people might think. Awesome. She's now tried 23 different meals and treats featured on gravestones at cemeteries all over the countries in Utah, Iowa, Alaska, Louisiana, Washington, and more. Taking it a step further, Grant has visited 6 grave sites so far with the recipes they feature, bringing along her homemade food to that specific to that grave. Grant said she would love to visit the graves with the food they feature, from snickerdoodle cookies to blueberry pies and meatloaf and other party dips. I'd love to cook with some of the families, she said. Grant runs a TikTok account called @GhostlyArchive and posts her ghostly baking adventures there, earning nearly 8 million likes. Yeah, I have no doubt, 193,000 followers. After she began sharing her journey online, Grant said that families reached out to her about the relatives' gravestones recipes. She said that all those cemeteries are beautiful places she used to feel uncomfortable about on the topic of death. Today, however, she's begun to have a different view. Awesome. That's excellent. For me, gravestone recipes are for the living, she said. Exactly. Why would they put it on the tombstone if they didn't want you to make it?
Eat this and remember me.
Eat this and remember me. So I think that's really cool. And yeah, very happy story. Now let's talk about this wallaby. You know what a wallaby is, right? Anyway, a pet wallaby named Rue goes missing in rural Oklahoma. Now, I'm going to tell you, just from reading this headline, I am furious that somebody named this wallaby Rue. You understand what I'm getting at? Anyway, search is underway in rural Oklahoma, in the community of Blanchard, for a missing pet wallaby. The animal, which is similar to a kangaroo, but smaller, escaped its backyard enclosure on Wednesday and is believed to be in some thick woods near the edge of town, said Diana Daniels, city clerk in Blanchard, about 30 miles south of Oklahoma City. Daniel says the animal is not typically aggressive, but might kick if it's cornered. Yeah, it's a wallaby. It's like a kangaroo, but smaller. Quote, they can hurt somebody if they approach it and corner it, she said. It is legal to own a wallaby in Oklahoma, but the animal should be registered with the city, Daniel said. The wallaby's owner, Gil Gilbreth, oh, Lord. Did your parents hate you? Did they hate you before you were even born? Gil Gilbreth? Oh, he uses it for petting zoos. He tells Fox 25 the animal is typically shy and a little skittish. I think he's probably out in that tall grass because he likes that tall grass. He likes to hide in it. Gilbreth told the television station. Gilbreth, they keep using his name like they even know it's funny. Gilbreth said he's still working to tame the animal, and as a result, he's going to be hard to catch him when we find him. Hold on. Here's this comment here. 7 July 2023. Randy for USA. He's a wallaby, identifies as a kangaroo, outfoxed his owner, did a rabbit, and is now on the lam in a high-stakes game of cat and mouse. Who makes an account to make a comment on a Fox News article? I don't care if it's funny. Oh, wait, shit. That's exactly the last half of my show. Oh, man. Anyway, we got to end this. This has been Shock Monkey Radio. I want to remind you again that I have a Patreon. Go to patreon.com/shockmonkeyradio. Become a patron today. Shock Monkey Radio, hashtag, all one word if you want to send me money through Cash App. Follow me on social media at DNALETSAW. That's the word wasteland spelled backwards on Twitter. Shock Monkey Radio Redux on Facebook and at SLRobins13 on Instagram. I also have books available for digital download on Amazon.com. Search for the author Scott L. Robbins with 2 T's and 2 B's, or you can follow the links down in the description below. I'm the Madman. This has been Shock Monkey Radio, and I love you.